strong, marching down, right down there, wherever it's at up here. You can see the slide. There it is. 75,000, I think, the last time. So this feels good. Just bringing back memories right now. So what I'd like to do today is tell a little bit of the story here. So I'm a music teacher. All right. And I got to give a shout out to that band before, middle school band. All right. As a music teacher, I was like, this is pretty good. And so I want to tell a little bit of the story from the perspective of a music teacher. I'm also the president of my local association. And I'm also one of the co-founders and organizers of Arizona Educators United, the grassroots organization that helped lead Arizona's Red for Ed movement. So I want to tell that story today, but I also want to give you lessons. I want to give you lessons so that you understand how to take what we did in Arizona, because I believe if it can happen in Arizona, which is a lot different than Illinois, it can happen anywhere. So that's my goal today. So this is the story of the Red for Ed movement. This is one of our very first signs that we had at our first big rally. We support Red for Ed, and we all wore these yellow stickers that said, I don't want to strike, but I will. And it all started on Twitter. This is the first tweet. Joe Thomas, he set the tone of the entire movement with this. He said, what do your colleagues at school want to do? That was the tone of this movement. It still is the tone of this movement. It wasn't Joe and the association saying, look, West Virginia did this. We need you to sign up on request to speak at the legislature. We need you to get on this email list. We're going to have a Saturday town hall. No, he turned to the teachers and he asked. Now, I don't think he anticipated the response I gave him, but he asked, so that's what he got. And he again, though, put it back to me. What can you do locally? And that's the question that I want to start here today with, to frame this discussion, to frame what we're thinking of. What can you do locally? The things that I'm going to show, I think, look big. They look like 75,000 people in the street. They look like 70,000 doors knocked. They look like 110,000 people doing walk-ins. But it started small. It started without us ever being able to visualize that. It starts with that question. What can you do locally? And so we went back and forth. We pitched a couple ideas. I said, what if I had teachers in my school sign a solidarity statement? Something simple. Maybe I can get them to just write their names on a piece of paper. Joe thought, let's go a little bit bigger. Let's have them wear Red for Ed on the same day. And honestly, I read that, and you can see my little heart. I did like it, but I was scared of that. I was like, great, all right, now I gotta do this. Now this is real. This isn't just me talking smack on Twitter anymore. This is real. And so right away, I tweet, you can see, to my buddy who teaches 7th grade math, 8th grade this year, to try to pull him in. What can we do? Can we do this? Because honestly, teachers have a sense of martyrdom, I think. We shut the door, we teach, we don't have the right amount of chairs, we don't have the right amount of students in the class, we don't have the right anything, but we do it. We're always struggling to do it because it's a tough job. And we have this sense of shut the door, I'll do it, I love the kids. So I didn't know if we put on the red shirts. But I thought maybe Mr. Thomas would do it with me. So I tweet at him. And this starts to gain a little bit of traction. So we make a Facebook event. And the Facebook event goes from about 20 people across maybe 2 or 3 schools. All of a sudden it's 40 people. It's up to like 200. By the time I'm going to bed that night, I'm looking at like 300. I'm like, all right, this is cool. If we can even get like a third of these people, it's going to be good. I'll tweet it to Joe. We'll be done. Moving on. I did it. The Red for Ed Day is done. Congratulations. It exploded. Here's my school on week 1. I work at a small school. That's 100% participation right there. But that's not all. It was across the entire state. Every single school, it seemed like, was wearing red on this day. It exploded. The Facebook event had like 2,000 people, 3,000 people on it, all these comments, and it starts trending on Twitter. That's when you know it's real. When it starts trending on Twitter, I was like, we really have something right now. It exploded. So somebody made this little compilation. Here's just of all the different things that were going on. This was our timeline, the Twitter feed that day. All of these people in the red standing up to say, enough is enough. And so that was the first week of the movement. That was the first Wednesday. And we were riding the high. I remember teaching that day. And it's amazing, right? You are going through your entire career, just closing the door and teaching and struggling. I was paying off my student loans. I was living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of that stuff has not changed, to be honest with you. But you feel good that day. You're walking around. You're doing fist bumps in the hallway like, look at us, we're doing something. But then in the Facebook event, people are tagging me and they're saying, well, what do we do next? You can't let this die. This event's going to close. Will we still be able to even talk on this event page? What's going to happen? What do we do next? We've got to do something tomorrow. And I didn't know what the answer was. I didn't know what to tell them. I knew we needed something more, but I didn't know what it was. I'm a music teacher. I'm not a trained organizer. I teach music. I put a puppet on my hand and sing Octopus's Garden. I don't know how to organize. So an amazing organizer, an amazing teacher. She comes from Chicago. Oh, I was going to get a little more for that. She comes from Chicago. And she starts a Facebook page. She was fresh from Chicago. She had just moved in, and she was looking around at Arizona and said, what is this? What is going on? And I'm from right outside of Rockford, so I was thinking the same thing. You know, we got to do something. This is different than Illinois. This is something else right now. And so what she did was she started a Facebook page. She was in the 2012 CTU strike out here. She learned about community organizing through that. She learned about agitating, bringing people together around these issues. And so she understood the first step is to make this Facebook page. So she starts a Facebook page around all this buzz that's going on. A couple days before that big Red Fred event, I jump on there. A couple other people were talking. What are we going to do? What happens after that day? What's next? People want to know. And then the page gets shut down. The page is gone. So Rebecca, she's amazing. She's fiery. She brought that Chicago energy. She knew she needed to bring people into the space just to communicate. But she was still new to Arizona. So when like the Goldwater Institute jumped in, she jumped out, closed the page. So it went dark. It went silent. So we brought it back together. We got in a little Facebook group chat. We said, what do we do? We decided we need this Facebook page. This was working. It was up for about 2 or 3 hours, but it was growing. There was buzz around it. This was working. So we started this. Arizona Educators United. That was our logo. Somebody made that for us. Another teacher, I believe, sent it to us, said, here you go. You need to look a little bit more official. Gave us that. And same thing happened. It blew up. It went from 500 people to all of a sudden somebody posts on there and says, invite every single teacher you know. And now it's at 1,000 people. And then it was 2,000. Then all of a sudden it was 10,000. And by now we're at about 55,000, I believe, on that page. It was massive. And so that was the answer. That's what we decided we needed to build. But what was happening, we realized, was we were talking really big in that Facebook group. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. People were saying we need to walk out, we need to do something else. So we had to again face this question. Okay, now we have a space, but what are we doing? So that Friday, we had another simple ask. Put on your red shirts again, but we need to make it more personal. We need you to show your face. We need you to tell your story. So the ask was, wear the red shirt, take the picture, post it with the hashtag again, but say why you're red for Ed. So we had these amazing stories from teachers who are posting why they're red for Ed. And you can see their faces. One person was posting like these dirty old Converse shoes, saying, I haven't been able to buy shoes in 5 years. People were posting pictures with their daughters, and I can't take my daughter to the doctor because I don't have health insurance, even though I'm a teacher. All these sorts of things. And that started to shift it. So we went from just wearing red shirts to showing our faces, to telling our stories. And then in the second week here, this is us in our first true mobilization in person. So this was the first time we stepped out from behind the keyboards and Twitter and all of that. And we showed up with about 200 people. You can't see them all in here, but we had about 200, 300 who showed up to protest the government. He was coming to speak at a radio station. Somebody on the Facebook page said, look, I know he's going to be there. I have a friend who works there. He does this every month. He's due. He's coming in. It was like that Monday. He's coming in Monday at 4. So we lined the whole street, and that was when it became real. This was the first time I think the Red Fred movement really became real. We did something more than just wear red shirts that day. We did something more than just tweet at our legislators. We came together face to face and saw each other. We saw people who we had never met, who were in the struggle with us. And we also had the opportunity to face the governor. But he snuck in through the back, so we didn't get to talk to him. But we were there, and we were waiting for him. It set the tone of it. It set our message, and it showed that this was a real movement. So that's our second week when we have our first big mobilization. Now something really powerful happens later in that week. This is a picture from the House floor. This was still in the really early stages of this, where we were trying to figure out what exactly is this? What does this look like? What does this mean? Which hashtag are we using? All these simple things. We didn't know for sure. And the union did something powerful. Our association has a day at the Capitol every year. Teachers are invited to come down, sit in, lobby, talk, all these things. But it's for members, right? It's only for members. They realized all the buzz. They realized that people wanted to come down and they wanted to be a part of this. And so they did something really powerful. They opened it up to every single teacher who wanted to come. They said, if you're Red Fred, if you're a teacher, if you have kids you want to bring, or if you're a parent or a supporter, come down. That was powerful. It was so powerful because the union in Arizona is much different than how we think of it here in Illinois. I grew up here, like I mentioned, and it's different. It's scarier to people. People didn't even want to see the union participating in this. They wanted just to be the Facebook page. But we as organizers understood, well, we need something bigger than a Facebook page. The association has all of these resources that they can offer to us. We need to be partnered in this. This is a labor movement. You don't box out your union. And the union matched that and said, we want to still send our teachers. We're not going to try to close this off and make it just our union. We're going to bring every single person we can into this. And the first time they proved that, I think, was this day. And you can see this powerful, powerful picture. And this went all over Twitter, all over Facebook. And it was one of the first times where we took the fight now offline, not just on a sidewalk, but we started to lobby. We started to have face-to-face encounters at the legislature. And when we did that, when teachers went down to the Capitol and told their legislators, look, I have 35 kids in my classroom. Look, I can't afford to pay my rent. Look, I can't afford health care anymore. I can't afford to be a teacher. And they were ignored. They were ignored. They were laughed at. They were made fun of. Changed. Something changed in them when they went down there and experienced that. And that was a powerful day for them where they became activists. All the people on that floor that day became education activists. And the union and the grassroots organization that we were working with collaborated incredibly well that day. And it really set the tone of this, of creating democratic spaces where we're working alongside our unions and our leaders. So this is a week after that. We did 2 of those. So those were two Wednesdays in a row. Week 4, all of a sudden we're getting all this pressure on our Facebook page. We need demands. What are we fighting for? What are we doing? What do we actually stand for? That was a big question. What do we actually stand for? So what we did was the only thing we really knew to do at that point, and still I think the only thing that you can do. We had to turn it back to the people. So we created these polls. We had them running for weeks, actually. Like in the first week or so, we got these up and running. But they said, what are the top 5 issues to you? And teachers listed a million different things. But we got down to a core set of demands. We worked again with the union. You can see us all on stage together here. That's me, Rebecca from Chicago. You can tell she's bringing that fire. There's Joe, our union president. Together we set our demands. And the demands didn't just come from me, Dylan, Rebecca, our 3 kind of core organizers up there, or Joe in the union that was workshopped behind, closed doors or something. No, these came from the teachers themselves on a Facebook poll. So what we went after really centered around a couple things. The first demand that we announced that night was that we wanted per pupil funding returned to the national average. Huge demand for us, 48th in the nation. Huge demand. We said, until that happens, no more corporate tax cuts. We're not giving away money to corporations while our kids suffer. Another demand that we had said, look, our classified staff, our education support professionals, our bus drivers, they've been ignored. They're suffering just like we are. They've been ignored and they are vital. They are vital to our schools. We said they deserve a fair wage. And then on the Facebook page, of course, people are talking about teacher pay. They're saying we need 5%. I need 5% to continue to teach. I need 10%. Some people would get a little wild and they would say, I need 15%. I need 15%. But when we sat down and looked at it, and we talked it over with the union, we talked it over with other education leaders and teachers, we realized 15% will still be pretty conservative, because we aren't just losing teachers in Arizona to neighboring districts. We're losing teachers to Colorado, to Utah, to California, to New Mexico, to any state that teachers can escape to. That's where we're losing them to. And just to be competitive with our neighboring states, we needed a 20% pay increase. A huge demand, but we went after it. So that was that night. We offered these demands. We thought, this was on a Wednesday. We like to keep things on Wednesdays. We thought, what's going to happen Wednesday after school? I know everybody in here is trying to probably plan something on a Wednesday after school. If you can get 20 people, that's pretty good. When things were really going on, we were like, if we can get 500 down here, this will be a good night. We had about 2,000, 3,000 teachers show up that night. They're bringing in busloads of teachers to drop them in after school. It was amazing. And we stood together and we rallied around these demands. And for the first time, we really had this concrete message of, we're not just fighting for schools, we're not just fighting for students, we're not just fighting for teachers. This is what we're fighting for, our communities. We're fighting for equal pay. We're fighting for our students' rights to an education. So that was week 4, where we really cement this. We really kind of set the tone of what's going to happen. So we're feeling really good. We're mobilizing in big numbers. We're checking the boxes on our metrics. We thought we'd get 500. We got 2,000. We got 40,000 people in the Facebook group. Everybody's wearing red. The media's picked up on this. We're feeling great. We got our demands. Things are really starting to happen. So we showed up. It was a month since we first went to the governor at the radio station. We showed up again. And by this point, we were firing on all cylinders. We had gotten up this system. And I'll talk about this more later when we kind of break down some of the lessons, but we had gotten the system up and running of what we call site liaisons, basically site reps, but they didn't have to be union members. So anybody could be a site liaison, and they ran things at their site. They signed up, they were volunteers. We had a network of 2,000 of them that we ran through the Facebook group and communicated with. We had this big system going. Things were really going well. So we showed up again and we were like, all right, we know the governor has to come out now. He's going to come out, he's going to talk to us, and maybe we can get him to give us something here. Maybe we can get a couple of these demands. Instead, the governor again sneaks in through the back, doesn't talk to any of the teachers, goes on the air, and basically makes fun of us. He says, this is political theater. It's a joke to him. We're basically pawns for the Democrats, he's saying. It's all just this big political joke. It's not real. So we were kind of back on our heels. What do you say to that? When you have all this energy, the biggest movement you've ever imagined, things that you never thought you would see is happening, and the one person you need to recognize it laughs at you, calls it theater, says it's a joke. We had to turn and figure something out. We had to kind of come back to the drawing board. And what we realized was, he can laugh at 300 teachers in red. He can laugh at 75,000 teachers in red. What he can't laugh at is the community. once the community stands with us, it's going to be a different story. So we launched a Community Solidarity Month. All through April was Community Solidarity Month. And one of the things we featured were these walk-ins that were incredible. They were some of the most beautiful, amazing shows of solidarity I've ever seen. We also invited parents to come down to parks. We had these events. Rebecca, again, the organizer who came from Chicago, teacher from Chicago, came up with this idea of Paint the State. Parents would bring their cars down, they'd talk with teachers about the issues, we'd talk about what's going on, we'd talk about Red for Ed, and then we'd write on their windows some education facts we had, or a message that they wanted to put out. We painted on there for them. And we would also give them something, just like Geneva had, just a little sign, Red for Ed sign, just like I showed you at the start. So, through these little meetings in the park, we start to really have some genuine conversations. And all of a sudden, I'm driving to work, and I'm seeing 48th in the nation in per pupil funding. We're losing teachers every day. Fund education, painted all over. I'm driving around my neighborhood, and every single restaurant has a We Support Red for Ed sign. And then we turned to the walk-in for the second consecutive week. Again, keeping it on Wednesdays, our Red for Ed Wednesdays. And we thought, if we can get 50,000 people, check a little box on Action Network and say they participated, that'd be great. That would send a message. We have 50,000 people who came out, supported us, they united arms, they walked through the halls of the school in solidarity with their teachers. That day, we got back, we checked the numbers, we had 110,000 people participate in the walk-in. And after that, we released that number. We say, look, this is what our support is. Something really funny happened. The governor, in 24 hours, had a pay plan on the table. He completely reversed from laughing at us, calling it political theater. When he saw the commitment from the community, when he saw the Red for Ed signs, when he saw driving to the Capitol, all the windows painted, and then that Wednesday when he saw 110,000 people in every corner of the state marching to their schools, the tone shifted, the narrative shifted. It wasn't just teachers he was dealing with, it was the community. So that changes the story here in Arizona. The whole community was united in this. Little things like, is the union too involved, or who are these teachers? It disappeared because we did real one-to-one organizing with our community. We engaged with them, and we didn't just come to them and say, look, these are the problems. We asked them, what are the problems? What can we do? Parents had their own Facebook page that was linked with ours. We had Spanish pages so that our parents who only spoke Spanish could still engage. We did everything we could to get to this point, and that was a tipping point in Arizona's movement. So the governor responds. He said, we can do 20% raises. We'll give you 10% now, 5% the next year, 5% the next year. So that sounds pretty good. We had 4 demands, though. That kind of got us to 1. And if you know anything about Arizona's governor, he's not great about keeping these sorts of promises. So we had to turn, again, to the teachers. What do you do in that moment? I'm in my 7th week as a statewide education leader. I don't know what to do. Do you take this deal? Can you essentially sell out ESPs and students so that teachers can get a 20% raise? We thought no. The leadership team firmly said no, we can't do that. Our union, Joe Thomas, Marcel Garcia, our 2 presidents and vice presidents said no, we can't do that. But we didn't know. What do the teachers want to do? What do the ESPs themselves want to do? So again, we had to keep this democratic. The one thing that had gotten us to this point was keeping it democratic and asking teachers and educators what they want to do. So we turned to them and said, we're calling a vote for a walkout statewide to fight for our 5 demands. That night, when we went to announce the results, and see what educators want to do. I didn't know if we were going to see 30% vote for yes. I didn't know if we would see 52%. And do you go out with 52%? I didn't know if we would see 70%. I really didn't know. None of us in that room knew. But as the numbers started to come in, we realized that almost every single teacher refused to sell out their colleagues and their students. We saw statewide, 80% of teachers say, yes, we're taking this risk. We are walking out of our schools to fight for every single person who works here and goes to school here. And we announced our walkout will begin that next Thursday. So, this is kind of the build-up to it right here. We honestly thought, at least I thought, and I think a lot of our leaders thought, it won't get to that. Nobody will let it get to that, right? We'll do it if we have to. We'll strike if we have to, but we don't want to. Nobody wants to walk out and have to do that. So our site liaisons, again, our volunteer teacher organizers, started organizing in a frenzy. And we didn't call these shots from above. This is a march in Tucson that teachers just decided they were doing. I remember watching the news that night. I was like, I didn't know that was happening, but that looks cool. This was, the whole state was like this. I remember driving down the highway to get home from school one day, and I see all these red shirts on a bridge with signs. And there's like 200 teachers who did this new tactic that they were doing called bridge takeovers, where they stood on top of the overpass and had signs. I didn't know they were doing that. Nobody knew they were doing that. Things were on fire. Teachers were organizing around the clock in any way that they could. They saw a bridge, they saw an opportunity. They saw a sidewalk, they saw an opportunity. They saw parents gathering outside the school before school, they saw an opportunity to organize their community. We did standouts in front of our schools, in front of local businesses who would let us stand out there with our signs. You can see the education facts. You can see the We Support Red for Ed signs. It was constant. It was round the clock, building up to this. Essentially, doing anything we can to stop it from getting to the point of a walkout. Why can we not come to the table and have a discussion with the governor here, or the legislature, to get a solution? The solution didn't come, though. So on April 26th, we started our walkout. And here's a shot of that very first day. 75,000 people marching to the Capitol. That was an incredible day. This is what community engagement results in. When you turn to your community and don't tell them what you need, but ask them what they need and respond to it. This is what happens. When you give teachers the power to not participate in the movement, but to lead it, this is what it looks like. So, this walkout, we thought might go a day, 2 days. Again, we're thinking, when is this going to end? When is somebody going to come to the table with a solution? We've told you what we need as teachers. It's your job as the legislature, as the governor, to respond, right? We put 75,000 people in the street. We put 110,000 people walking into our schools. Where is the solution? We're in a crisis. And they ignored us. We ended up down there for 6 days fighting for this, fighting for the budget to pass. And one of the things, again, where are my music teachers at? There we go. One of the things, because that's hard. It's 110 degrees. You're out taking the biggest political risk you've ever taken. You don't know how it's going to end. You don't even fully know what all you have on the line. But it's those music teachers who said, we'll help you out. We know something that works. And they put together, in the real spirit of Red for Ed, their own band, their own marching band. And so at the Capitol, there are all these tents. Districts made their own little tents. School sites made their own little tents with hang these cute little signs with their mascot out front. They would be going in and out to lobby, and then they would come out and rest, and somebody would have water, and the band would be walking around playing all these songs. They'd go up on stage and perform. They did the Star-Spangled Banner every morning. I mean, it was amazing. This band kept the energy going. They kept providing that spark. So as a music teacher, I can't help but just think about that. The way that music kept us alive, kept us moving forward through here. So I just got to give that band a shout out, and all my music teachers here. Store that one in the back of your head for maybe a rainy day here. You got to get out there and support them, because this gave us life. When you're out there fighting tooth and nail for this, you need that boost of somebody getting on stage and playing, we're not going to take it. Everybody just scream, we're not going to take it. So we stayed down there. The band provided the spark. Some of the conversations with legislators really ignited the spark when you get laughed at, when you get made fun of, when you get ignored in committees. And we stayed. We had teachers in the gallery, all in red. We had teachers everywhere in the halls. They're going into Appropriations Committee, Education Committee, all these different committees, just pleading. What else can we do? How can we resolve this issue? And we saw teachers speak not only about teacher pay. That's the thing that I think all these movements have taught us. It's not about teacher pay. It's about our schools. It's about our kids. So teachers, educators, parents, students, we're all going down and talking to these legislators and saying, look, we need to increase per pupil spending. We need to increase ESP wages. We need to make sure that there's still a school in my community. And eventually, there was some movement, and these are the things that we want. We had a 20% raise for teachers over 3 years. So again, there's a promise on that. That should come with a little asterisk. A lot of the districts, it went district by district, right? I have a district who said, we'll take this money, we're going to do 10% for teachers this year, we'll do the next 2 5s, the next 2 years, we gave ESP 7%, and our admin got a 5% raise. So we got raises across the board. Some districts, though, didn't see that. Because of the way this was set up, it had flexibility. So if they needed new tires on the bus, it might have gone there. Because we are so tight on cash still in Arizona. So it comes with an asterisk, but we did get a promise of 20%, and most teachers got somewhere between 8 to 12. We had raises for classified staff across the state, like my district. We had an increase. This was the big one in my mind. $406 million in K-12 spending. But we had to keep organizing, because as the sign says, education matters. And we all know from looking at that, there are gaps in this. There are asterisks in this. $406 million sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But a $1.1 billion deficit is bigger. So we said, we can't give up now. We have to continue fighting. We have to recover this $700 million deficit. So what we did was we took power into our own hands. If the legislature won't do it, we'll do it. We put together a ballot initiative that would tax the top 1% in Arizona, and it would come up with about $700 million directly to K-12 education. We had about 6 weeks to do it. Legislators again laughed at us and don't even try. You won't be able to do it. You need 200,000 signatures to even compete. We have 270,000 in 5 weeks. covered in controversy. It's too long to even get into here. Google it if you want, but it's just corrupt Arizona politics. Pulled that from the ballot. So again, back to the drawing board. Here was our ticket to end this crisis. What do we do now? We realized the only thing we have left right now is this election. So we pivoted to the election. And we had candidates sign a pledge that said, we will meet these demands if you put us in office. And we said, if you meet the demands, we'll go to work for you. And we knocked on 70,000 doors for those candidates. And we saw the results come November. We saw things like Kathy Hoffman, who was a speech pathologist at an elementary school. She's now our superintendent of public instruction. So we continue to pivot and pivot and pivot to make this work. And so we're already starting to see some of the benefits of this. And again, we got a long ways to go, but we're getting there. Just yesterday, Kathy Hoffman, again, that speech pathologist who we helped get into office, she was one of the main leaders in repealing this horrible, horrible policy that we have in Arizona called the No Promo Homo Law, where you have to basically not acknowledge anybody's sexual orientation if it's not heterosexual. So basically, just ignore any of these students, anything they might go through, anything that they would need in sex education, you have to ignore. Just yesterday, we were able to repeal that. Clean repeal, bipartisan support, So that's the story. That's the story of what's happened so far. Now we're in a different phase. We're building power through our local associations. People like me become presidents. People who never went to any sort of meeting are there now. People who didn't know their legislators are in their email or in their office every single day. It's transformed things. And we're fighting a long fight. And here are our lessons. The first thing, this is what has made the difference in every single place where these fights have happened. We must center our communities and students alongside educators. Right now, we must have community-centric methods of organizing. It cannot be about only teacher pay. It should be about teacher pay, but it should be about your students and the people who you work with and the community you teach in as well. That's our first lesson from Arizona. We also must create democratic spaces and not be afraid of new forms of organizing. Facebook pages. You can see right here, it might be a little small. This went up, and in less than 24 hours, Kelly, who's an amazing kindergarten teacher and on our leadership team with Arizona Educators United, she's got about 2,000 views on her message in less than 24 hours. We can't be afraid of this. We have to encourage this, but we have to be smart about it too. We can't just make a Facebook page and run with it. You can for a little bit, but it gets crazy. 50,000 people in a Facebook group is insane. So we built it out. This page right here, our main page, is closed. You have to ask to be in it. Only the administrators can post in it. But we have other spaces where anybody can post. We have other spaces where just our liaisons can post. We have other spaces where just parents can post. So you have a whole network of Facebook pages. Facebook pages are not the key. They're not the golden ticket, but they are a vital tool. We can't be afraid of these spaces, and we have to innovate around these spaces and make them work for us. Another thing, West Virginia taught us this, a gradual escalation of tactics. You can't, I shouldn't say you can't. You can come flying out of the gates and say, we're going on strike tomorrow. But if you build it up slowly, start with a red shirt, start with a tweet, start with a handshake, and build it up gradually and intentionally, that's how you get 75,000 people on the street. That's how you get 70,000 doors knocked. That's how you get $406 million back into your budget. You have to be intentional and gradual as you build up your leaders. And we have to recognize Red for Ed is not just an education movement or a teacher movement. This is a labor movement. We have to recognize that we are fighting for working class people with working class values, and they are leaders. We have to allow them the space to become labor activists engaged in this fight for their communities. And we must great job of not saying, we need to run this, or you guys are scaring me with the way you're talking on Facebook Live. I remember Joe Thomas told me something profound. I'll never forget this. He said, Noah, I don't care who throws a touchdown pass. I just want to see a damn touchdown pass. So we must embrace new leaders. But it has to be authentic. We need to give them the space they need, the tools they need. We can't just give them 5 minutes on the mic and say we're creating new spaces for leaders. You have to empower them. You have to let them empower themselves. That's what this movement is built on. Teachers like Vanessa, she's in that upper right corner. She built the entire communication system on her laptop through Google Forms, through Gmail, through messaging people. She built a list of like 50,000 teachers by herself with copy and paste and Google. And Dylan, who's up on the left, he ran the liaison communication. He ran a network of 2,000 teachers across the state as leaders. He ran the entire network. And Rebecca was coming up with tactic after tactic. She still is now. For how do we move this forward? We have to embrace these leaders. And the last lesson from Arizona is simple. If we don't fight for our students, who will? If we don't stand up for our students and for our professions, who will? There's nobody waiting in the wings of this hotel to do it for you. It's the people right here in this room who have to do it. We are the ones who will protect and save public education in the United States. But if we don't do it, you have to believe that no one will. You are the answer. You have the resources. The people in this room right now can change the entire narrative. They can change the state of Illinois and each and every student's experience in your classrooms. But you have to take it to yourself and say, what can I do today to move this forward? What can I do in my school tomorrow that will make a brighter future for that student? You have to ask yourself that question over and over again. Because if no one else does, it's up to you. And no one else is right now. So I want to finish with this. Stand up real quick for me. We've got to finish with a good chant here. It's up to us to fight this fight. Repeat after me. I believe. I believe. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.